The brain is like a book, which at birth already has a rough draft written in outline, even though no chapters are complete. Nature provides a first draft, which experience then revises. Built in does not mean unmalleable. It means organized in advance of experience. Gary Marcus uses this analogy to perfectly describe how it is human nature to grow and change as one learns and experiences life, highlighting the brain to be malleable. Good morning, I'm Maylee Gillum, and today I'll be discussing moral compass. This introduces my research question: to what extent do inherent cognitive processes versus external factors shape an individual's moral compass? For a better understanding of my lens, one's moral compass is a human's innate guide deciphering right from wrong. But what affects these instincts, and are they permanent from birth? This leads me to my argument. Although moral compass is personal, yet still considered to be somewhat permanent from birth, the perpetual growth of human cognitive functions is important to consider given one's upbringing, societal norms, and personal experiences. Francesca Gaino and Siddhari Desai conducted an experiment determined to convey the influence of childhood memory. Individuals were asked if they would like to donate money to charity after being reminded of a memory from their childhood, positive or negative. It was unwittingly clear that the individual's sense of moral purity was heightened. Youngsters may or may not behave especially ethically, but childhood tends to connote an innocence, a frame of mind that affects behavior, Gross says. Childhood is arguably the most valuable period of instilling the core values carried throughout life and will always be the blueprint. Digging deeper into what causes these values to stick, ways in which the brain was built up throughout life, is also relevant. Recent studies have shown that childhood trauma affects the brain with long-term damage, resulting in conditions such as bipolar disorder, completely changing the behavior of one's brain. One prospective study of adults who experienced childhood trauma found that participants showed differential brain activation during processing of reward and engaging greater levels of risk-taking behaviors, both in laboratory and real-world measures. While this study is seen to be in a negative light, it highlights the consequences of a strong foundation one possesses. To some, the foundation they have is beneficial, while the other opposite is also common. Childhood trauma is not to be interpreted as an excuse for actions, but simply an explanation as to why one acts in specific ways. Amongst all societies, differences are seen easily, yet alter one's way of living and thinking. Depending on the culture, different experiences and lessons are held high due to what their societies have experienced. For example, countries in the Middle East that have the religion of Muslim would request women to wear veils in order to cover their skin, which is an unreasonable regulation in other countries. As demonstrated, Islam countries choose to maintain this by law, right or wrong, providing Muslims with no choice but for showing their skin to be seen as wrong. The state of their moral identity and compass is now partly up to the government, altering their way of living. Furthermore, Paul Solvik and Daniel Bashval mentioned the experiential system and how it enabled humans to survive with the help of intuition and instinct, which help us evolve. The experiential system is the idea that people operate based on two systems when reacting to the world around them. The analytical rational system is a system that uses logic most commonly in low-risk environments, while the intuitive experiential system is more so emotional and high-risk environments that require a person to be under pressure. This is directly related to moral compass and how one's upbringing contributes to how they react socially and what they choose culturally. The more life experiences one gains, the more their moral compass changes. Opposing views claim and hold evidence to the idea of humans being either born either good or evil. One of the most famous views of this debate is Thomas Hobbes, an English philosopher known for controversial perspectives on human nature. The natural condition of mankind, according to Hobbes, is a state of war in which one's life is solitary, poor, nasty, British, and short, because individuals are in a war against all. While this seems pessimistic and harsh, it is important to keep in mind Hobbes had experienced a civil war. It's all he knew the world to be. He saw peace as something unattainable, something humanity would and could never reach. While this is a unique perspective, Hobbes was more so trying to express the difficulty humanity has togetherness and politics. Not the fact that humans are born bad, but the fact they are at times selfish. Seeing as he was surrounded by the relentless reminder of war and evil, it is understandable as to why Hobbes believed in this ideology. In fact, his perspective ties directly in with the impact personal experiences have on the human brain when deciphering right from wrong. Historically, many experiences have left individuals with a belonging and motive to take action. This is seen in 1933 as President Franklin D. Roosevelt delivered the inaugural address to Americans as the unemployment rates continued to dominate the country. This I propose to offer, pledging that the larger purposes will bind upon us as a sacred obligation with the unity of duty hitherto evoked in time of an armed strife. The influence Roosevelt commands upon the American people due to their unfortunate situations, he states they must push to see the light at the end of the tunnel. While this is seen as a sacrifice and rather a plea, this is what Roosevelt sees as fit for the Americans. This decision was built upon what he and the country had experienced. Due to many Americans losing everything they had and experiencing unemployment, their future actions will be a result of this. To conclude, the idea of one's moral compass being malleable is justified due to the effects of upbringing, societal norms, and life experiences, and what effect they have on each individual. Some solutions may include things like promoting empathy and compassion to learning from history and studies to better understand the influence of good doings on yourself and others. Whilst the downfall of doing this is indeed all moral compasses are personal. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, 2 questions. How'd your research question evolve as you worked your way through the whole project?
So I basically started just with morality, and then I thought it was interesting to see the way things influence an individual's personal morality. So that's how I got to moral compass and the debate between that.
Okay, and what advice would you have for someone who wanted to look at a moral compass or morality in the future?
Some advice I would have is definitely to look into the scope of education, as there's curriculums based upon giving ethics and moral lessons in schools. So I think that could be another interesting thing to research.